A Hat in Time is a cute-as-heck 3D platformer that features a little girl who stitches together magical hats. You wake up on your space station, and something goes wrong, and now you have to recover all the timepieces that were used to power your space station so that you can go home. The story is pretty simple and straightforward. Personally, I love it. Now, this isn't some grand epic tale by any means. It's not really supposed to be. The main features of this game, the real things that should draw you to it, are the amazing amounts of heart and detail that were poured into this game. You can see it in every level, in literally every aspect of the game. Down from the character design, the different hat flares that you can get, and the general all-around feel of the levels. And most of the levels are extremely unique. They don't really repeat each other too much, except for the fact that you're platforming. And the worlds are just a joy to play. Honestly, my only complaint about this game, my only real complaint, is that the game is short. But that's not even a real big complaint. I've managed to get 23 hours out of this game. I've pretty much 100% completed it. There are a couple of achievements that I'm missing. And they have, as of the time of this video, not released the free DLC that they're supposed to be releasing, which is supposed to add 2 more chapters, and apparently co-op? I'm not sure how that would work, really. It didn't really seem like a game that you could co-op too well, but I'm interested in finding out that as well. The game is also just chock full of mod support. They really want the community to get active in this, make new levels, make new hats, just really get in there and build on to what they've already made. So, I've seen some people complain about the price. A $30 game for not even 30 hours worth of gameplay. There is a lot of replayability in this. Even if you don't really like replaying games, I could honestly go in this game and just mess around. Even in the hub world, it's just massively fun to jump around and do your own little things in, and I think that's something more games should strive for, just having the gameplay be fun. Not many games do that anymore, and I always love it whenever I see just simplistic, good gameplay in it. Everything from the jumps to the slides to the way you climb things. Take for example here, they put rings on the carpet. Yeah, sure, it's colorful and nice, but I've easily spent 10-20 minutes just jumping from ring to ring, trying to be in a set pattern, jumping from the outer ring to the middle ring without touching the in-between ones, trying not to touch anything on the ground at all. I don't know about anyone else out there, but I love to play the floor is lava in games, or just general parkouring about. And all of the worlds are fun to explore and just mess around in. Arguably, I would say it's a little bit difficult with some of the maps because they had a specific goal and theme in them. Going back to the simple gameplay, I really love the combat in the game. You have multiple options in order to actually fight. You can simply jump on the heads of most enemies, killing them Mario style. You also have a dive move, which is more accurate and actually kind of homing. You've also got the option to just whack them with an umbrella, and a badge that actually turns your umbrella into a laser, of all things. Which is actually pretty neat. I found it hard to aim a little bit. I might be able to mess with that in the settings. I think there's something on there that's got aim assist on as the standard. The jumping and the parkouring in this game is really well done. You get a double jump, you can dash in the air. If you time your dashes right, you can actually get a little bit of speed boost on that. I didn't even know about that until about halfway through the game. If I had had this game when I was younger, this would have been the game that I played all the time. In games like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I found ways to just mess around and waste time. I would go swimming and fishing, try to do flips, jump off the waterfall in Majora's Mask, all kinds of stuff like that. There might not be more story after you're done, but the just playground nature of this game is something to behold. And I've not played a game with such a good game feel ever before. Like, ever before. Climbing vistas in this game, you're not required to climb any vistas, but I found myself doing it anyway just because of how fun it is. Games like Assassin's Creed force you to climb up the vistas as part of like an unlockable, or it unlocks more things for you. In this game, there was no reward except for I wanted to do it and it felt good climbing that thing. So I did it. And honestly, that's what games should strive to be, I think. Now, you can probably compare this to a lot of games, but I honestly don't think you should. Because it might have been inspired by some other games, but they took concepts of games and things that they liked, and they put it in this game, not to just sell out on the whole nostalgia principle of it. They put in things that I genuinely believe they thought were a good idea to put in the game that would make the game a good game. So I don't think you're doing A Hat in Time any justice by comparing it to newer games like Yooka-Laylee or older games like Super Mario Sunshine or Super Mario Galaxy. I think you should just look at the game as its own unique individual game. And that's why I opened with the description, which is very similar to what they actually use on their Steam page as the description. Let me just touch on the bosses a little bit. All of the bosses in this game are amazing. It's a little bit out of nowhere how difficult the bosses can be, considering that most of the gameplay is a very lighthearted, easygoing platformer, and most of it's not that difficult. There are some tense sections in the game, but for the most part, things are pretty forgiving. Jumping on wires is pretty forgiving. It kinda auto-hooks you on it if you're fairly close, so you don't have to completely nail it. So even the things that look like they would be bad and rough are actually really well executed. But the bosses, it's a little bit jarring to go from that easygoing, lighthearted gameplay to suddenly you're in the middle of this real epic fight. All I can really say that's bad against the boss fights is some of them are a little bit longer than you would think they would be. Like, you're expecting, like, oh, I probably only have to hit this guy like 3 times and then I win. And some of them feel like they end a little bit too abruptly and they could possibly go on. And maybe they'll have like a challenge mode or like a boss rush or something that can get added where it makes them even more crazy and intense. I would personally love to see something like that, and it's got mod support, so it could happen, where the boss fights are extended. The only other thing I can say with the boss fights, with some of them being longer than you would think, you do get some health drops in the fights, but it always felt like, for me, that I was getting them when I didn't really need them, and not getting them when I did need them. So, a couple of fights I had to make a second attempt on. They weren't so difficult that it completely put me out of doing it, but I did end up dying and I needed to make a second attempt on it. I still love the game and it didn't really break the pacing for me. You definitely should buy A Hat in Time if you like video games at all. If you can look at the gameplay and be like, that looks really fun, buy it. Drop the money on it. The developers for this should get paid. I want more games like this. I want more games where it feels like the developer really put their heart and soul into this game, and that's what this feels like. And I don't feel like a lot of games do that. I'd like to see more of that, where games are trying their best, putting out what they can, and not trying to pad out their gameplay. There is not a single second of this game that I feel is padded out. I feel like everything in it was put there for a reason, to make an impact. They wanted the game to be a certain way. They weren't trying to make the game longer than it needed to be. that's something more games should do. This is definitely one of my favorite games now, and if it were up to me, I would give it Game of the Year. Go buy it.